Picking up from where I left it at the end of part 1, I've just changed the engine oil and I'm just checking underneath to make sure there's no obvious or visible leaks. Happy that all is well with the oil change and there are no leaks. I continue with servicing my vehicle by firstly changing the air filter. I always have trouble removing this air filter box, and so I find it's easy just to unclip where the mass airflow sensor is and remove the top completely, and the paper filter comes out perfectly. In this instance, I'm not going to replace the filter with a paper one. I'm going to put this supposed racing reusable filter back in, and perhaps later in the year fit the new paper one. If you haven't changed your mass airflow sensor recently, I'd definitely recommend giving it a go. I changed mine and it made a noticeable difference to the running of the engine. The next thing I do is just check to make sure the wastegate actuator is moving, and I give it a squirt of WD-40. Here I'm just checking the brake level fluids, and as I've worked on the brakes recently, I kind of know they're going to be okay, so that's fine. I'm just checking the coolant levels. I can't actually see the level of the fluid through the tank because it's so discoloured, so what I use is the old McDonald's stirring stick, and I use the top of the thread as my kind of datum point, if you like. As I can see here, it just needs a bit of a top up. My next task is to change the transmission fluid in the gearbox. So the first thing I'm doing is locating the filling point, and the next thing I'll do is make sure that I can loosen it and access it. I'm doing this because I don't want to be in the situation where I drain all the fluid out of the gearbox and then I'm unable to put any new fluid in. Then I will be stuck. The filling plug on the gearbox takes a large Torx head socket, and it comes out quite easily. I kind of knew it would because I've had it undone before. This oil dripping here that you can see is just coming out of the gearbox, and it just indicates to me that the gearbox is full of oil, so I haven't lost any from that, thank goodness. I undo and remove the drain plug on the gearbox with my 3/8 ratchet, and I let the waste oil go into my Halford's waste oil catch can collector. I've got to say, this oil looks pretty clean that's coming out. I'm quite pleased about that. When the majority of the oil is drained out of the gearbox, I start putting in the new oil. The method I use is to use one of these manual hand pump oil transfer kits. Now what I normally do, I put it into the top of the oil can rather than transfer the oil from the can into the bottle that comes with the pump. I've got to say it does a pretty good job, and it really delivers the oil quite quickly, considering I'm actuating it by hand. Once the fluid starts dripping out of the filling point, that's an indication that there's enough oil in there, so then I just stop the pumping and refit the filling plug. Once I'm happy with the gearbox, I then turn my attention to the transfer box. Here I'm just showing where the fill point is for the transfer box. I definitely want to make sure I've got clear access and that I can loosen this fill plug before I drain any oil out of the transfer box. Both the drain plug and the filling plug on the transfer box just take a 1/2 inch drive, which makes it very simple and easy. Once again, the oil coming out of this transfer box seems to be very clean. The drain plug on the transfer box is magnetic, and it appears there's no sparkly bits on this at all, so that's a step in the right direction. As before, once I'm happy that the majority of the oil has been drained out of the transfer case, I refit the drain plug. If you haven't already subscribed, I wonder if you would consider doing so. It is free to subscribe and it gives incentive to create more content. Thank you. I use the hand pump device to refill the transfer case. It's quite handy. As you can see here, it screws directly onto the oil bottle, the container that's got the oil in. So it keeps the mess down to a minimum. Here you can see, although the video is speeded up, you can see how effective the pump is at transferring the liquid from the bottle into the transfer case. Again, the way of telling when the transfer case is full is when the oil starts dripping out of the filling point. When the oil starts dripping, then I just replace the filling plug and have a quick clean up. Okay, now I'm on the home straight, as it were. It's time to change the oil on the differential. This is the front differential. And as you can see, the minute I take the plug out, oil starts dripping, which is a good indication that there's the right amount of oil in there. Once the filling plug is loose, I then move on to the drain plug and drain the oil from the differential case into my receptor. The drain plugs on both diffs are magnetic, and on both, back and front, there didn't seem to be any debris on them at all, which is good news. To refill it, I just used the same procedure using the manual pump. I know I didn't probably need to do this with the pump, I could have pulled it straight in, but this is a good demonstration of how well the pump works. Once again, once the oil starts spilling out, it's time to refit the filling plug. Finally, I go around and jack the vehicle up on the individual corners and check each wheel to make sure there's no play on the wheel bearings. Everything seems to be fine there. I apologise for the blurred effect on the background of the shot. I'm not going for any sort of artistic impression here. It's just that I've put my greasy thumb on the lens of the camera. If you haven't subscribed already, I wonder if you'd consider doing so. It's free and it helps give incentive to create more content. Thank you. So that's it, another job done. The total cost was approximately £180. That cost is inclusive of the service kit, the oil waste can and all of the necessary oils that were required. That's pretty good value. Of course, the value of completing the work myself is priceless. I know it's probably psychological, but the vehicle seems to drive so much smoother and it also seems a little bit quieter. I can't wait to tell the wife.